Trinny Woodall has candidly opened up about her ex-husband Johnny Likeoff's suicide and how she experienced new grief for him earlier this year. The 59-year-old shares daughter, 19, with her late first spouse, who she was married to for 10 years. From a previous relationship, he also has a son named Zach. In a new interview, Trinny discussed her failure to understand his suicide, particularly due to his thoughts on the welfare of his children. The businesswoman explained how Johnny had hypervigilance around them, which came from a late-diagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder from being in the Israeli army. Speaking to Stephen Bartlett on his Diary of a CEO podcast, she said, "One of the things also is hypervigilance around his children, so he was always so worried for their welfare." Read more. Calvin Harris marries Vic Hope 15 years after she rejected him. So you kind of have this thing of where do you get to in your brain, when you are so worried about your children, that you can convince yourself that the best thing for your children, who you love profoundly, is that you're not in their life anymore. And that is something that is so important, that we can help people who get to that situation, that they don't get to that final part of that situation. Trinny went on to say it was important to understand what to recognize in that situation, but admitted it was very hard to pinpoint. "I didn't recognize. There were lots of details of it which could have really upset me, of things that were done wrong. But you kind of have to let go. Don't miss." Ken Bruce could barely speak between songs after second divorce struggle. Latest, horrid Steve Martin slammed by Miriam Margolyes after vile experience, revealed. Kate Garraway fears she's failing after pulling out of GMB due to chest pains. Health news: you need to work through these stages and not get stuck in something which eats you up, she continued. Others who have been in her situation, she added, would have questioned whether they could have helped a late loved one more at some point. Johnny was 55 when he took his own life in 2014. Ahead of his death, he reportedly suffered multiple failed oil investments and had considered suicide just days before. At the time, the couple were already divorced, but they remained close friends and spoke every day. Trinny said she only truly got to grieve properly when their daughter was away 6 months ago. At the time, the fashion mogul said she was occupied with dealing with a mess he had left behind and trying to guide Lila to be okay. So it preoccupies you to not then actually just think about what you miss in somebody. You're focused on what you've got to do, you go on to autopilot, she added. Probably oddly, I moved in March and that was the first time I remember Lila went away, and it was the first time in 35 years I'd been on my own in the house. And I grieved for Johnny, all those years later. If you have been affected by anything in this article, please contact the Samaritans on 116 123.
To